think he has some pretty clear opinions.
Well, and he's been on the inside for a long time. Republican representative from Michigan and ranking member on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, Congressman Peter Hoekstra. In yesterday's Wall Street Journal, Peter wrote, "It was not necessary to release details of the enhanced interrogation techniques because members of Congress from both parties have been fully aware of them since the program began in 2002. We believed it's something that had to be done in the aftermath of 9/11 terror attacks to keep our nation safe. After many long and contentious debates, Congress repeatedly approved and funded the program on a bipartisan basis in both Republican and Democratic congressmen." Peter, good to see you again. Nancy Pelosi yesterday said that she really didn't get that much information in 2002, which is contrary to a Washington Post report, and said even if she did, that, well, there was just very little she could do about it because it was top secret. Well, what's your response?
Well, the thing is, it appears that many of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, they were for this program before they were against it. The leadership on both sides, the Republicans and Democrats, were briefed on this program. And then to say that if we are briefed and we don't like what we say or we don't like what we see, there's nothing we can do about it. I mean, she was either the ranking Democrat on the Intelligence Committee, she was perhaps the minority leader, or she was Speaker of the House. She is in that job to represent her colleagues and the American people, and if she sees something that she doesn't like, it's her responsibility to speak up, bring it to the attention of the president, bring it to the attention of her leadership. It's not to just sit like a wallflower and do nothing.
Peter, it was stunning when I heard that, because whenever I had concerns, because I had the security clearance to do it, I would go, have the Intel Committee brief me on several issues, and if I didn't have concerns after asking questions, that's fine. If I did have concerns, I certainly would go to somebody like you and say, hey, we need to talk to the White House. This isn't going to work. How can Nancy Pelosi say basically that I'm Pontius Pilate? I can do nothing. I wash my hands of this. I've never heard any congressman or senator ever claim that they were helpless.
Yeah, Joe, this is all about accountability. It's about leadership. The Speaker is not showing it. She hasn't shown it in the past. You know, there are documents out there that detail when these briefings took place and what was said in these briefings and how members responded. We now need to make sure that those documents are not destroyed, that they are gathered, and that they are turned over to Congress as quickly as possible.
And, of course, Peter, Nancy Pelosi is not alone in this. Jay Rockefeller, others that were on that committee, a lot of people on the Intel Committee were read into so many of these programs. And in fact, the Washington Post suggested early on in this meeting Nancy Pelosi was in that that no question was raised about whether waterboarding was too harsh. The question that was raised in that meeting was, is this really all you guys are going to do? Is this tough enough to get the information we need about Al-Qaeda?
Yeah, I think, again, Joe, a lot of this documentation or the memos that explain what was said, how these programs were developed, who were briefed, this doesn't have to be speculation. Now that the president has declassified the legal memos, have him declassify the briefings to Congress, what was said and when it was said. That needs to happen, and it needs to happen soon.
Congressman, let me get you exactly down here. Now, Nancy Pelosi said, we were in the briefing, they told us these sorts of things were authorized by the lawyers. They did not tell us ever that these things were being used. In other words, they did not tell us waterboarding or these enhanced interrogation methods were being used. Are you saying that the Speaker of the House is not telling the truth when she said that?
Pat, what I'm saying is that over a period of time, I started getting these briefings when I became chairman of the Intelligence Committee in August of 2004. I've also seen the chronology of meetings and briefings prior to that time. I was not in the meeting where the Speaker was, but I've seen the chronology and the notes of many of these meetings, not of all of them. But I think a very strong case can be made that Congress knew about this program, all aspects of this program, and nothing was held back. Either the Speaker knew or her designated representative to the Intelligence Committee was fully briefed on these programs.
So what we're seeing here, Joe, is an ugly political fight that is going to have damage for both parties. And ultimately, are we going to end up being able to do what's going on?
This is actually very simple. What's happening here is that President Obama is being pulled to the left by the far left of his party, who's being pulled to the left by their base. And Nancy Pelosi doesn't want this to continue in the debate. She knows how this ends. It's going to be embarrassing. And Pete, it just seems to me that, again, Democrats are forgetting. It's much like the WMD issue. Everybody says George Bush lied about WMDs. You look at the quotes that everybody made, Democrats made from 98 to 2002. It's there. It is there. They all believe it. It's the same thing here, where so many of these Democrats who now seem so shocked and stunned went along for the ride.
They were there. They were briefed. The documentation and the record will show, as long as the documents and the records are not destroyed and as long as they are turned over and when they are made public, I think the American people will see that it doesn't have to be a political fight. The data is there. We can work off of facts. We don't have to work off of accusations, speculations. The documentation is there. Make it public.
Do you have fear that someone may destroy these documents?
Sure, you always have that fear. Joe, you and I were together on an oversight subcommittee in the Education Committee years ago. We know that bureaucracies have ways of either making information disappear or, just slow rolling it, making sure that the people that need the information or want it, it may take months before they ever get it. That's why I'm saying let's get these documents, let's turn them over to Congress, let's turn them over as quickly as possible to make sure none of those bad things happen.
A truth commission for Congress. I like it. Pat.
Congressman, I understand they're going to release photographs of some of these interrogation methods, what it looked like, what was going on. Do you think it's a good idea to put those out to the public?
Well, again, I think we're talking about two different things here, Pat. I think we're talking about Secretary Gates turning over photos that were taken at military facilities in prisons, alleging abuse by the U.S. military. What we're talking here about enhanced interrogation techniques, these are techniques that may have been applied to 100 people or so that were held by the CIA, of which less than 1/3, so around 30, may have had some enhanced interrogation techniques applied to them. I don't think the photos that are being released by the Department of Defense are the documentation of what went on with the CIA.
Right. And of course the problem is you put those out there, it muddies the debate, and once again CIA professionals are mixed in with what happened inside the DOD. Hey, Pete, thanks.
Joe,
go ahead, Pete.
I was just going to say, you're absolutely right. The president has thrown the professionals in the intelligence community under the bus. We need to protect them. Take a look at who's responsible for the public policy, the administration and Congress.
Exactly. All right. Hey, thank you so much.
Congressman, thank you.
Pete, good to talk again. Congressman Peter Hoekstra. Coming up next.